Boy, oh boy. Welcome in. It is November 11th, day of our Lord 2024. Happy Veterans Day. And, you know, the faces, the names, they all change, but some things just tend to stay the same. And LSU got a very rude greeting from Kalen DeBoer in the Alabama Crimson Tide as LSU welcomed in Alabama under first year head coach Kalen DeBoer, and the Tide rolled all night. And we are going to talk bigger picture here. What is the state of LSU football right now? Like, how are we feeling? Is this just one game? Is this a pattern? We're going to talk about it all. We're going to kind of break down the game, but there's really not much to break down from the game. This is one of those games where you just crumble it up and you just throw it in the trash, man, because it's over with. It's done. Don't look at it ever again. And yeah, just but I wouldn't even watch. I wouldn't even want to watch the film on this game because I tried to rewatch this football game and I literally could not do it. I was there in person. I witnessed it. I saw what I needed to see, and I got out of there as quick as I could, man. As many of you probably did as well. I was one of the very ones that, I think it was the 35 when it was 35 to say it was the last one of the last Jalen Monroe plays. He broke the long touchdown right at the start of the fourth quarter, and that was it for me. I was out of there. Um, Summed up in one statement, man. 300 and you want a padlock stat, man. You want to tell me what the result of this game would have been. All I got to do is tell you this one stat, and it is 311 rushing yards for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Holy cow. And it was the easiest, most I mean they only had 420 total yards. We're talking about 311 rushing yards, 6.4 yards per play. Um, and it felt like that. It wasn't a game where they just sat there and run the ball and dominated in time of possession. They destroyed you on third downs. They were 10 of 13 on third downs, and that is what the definition of this game was. Were you going to be able to stop Jalen Miller running the football, and were you going to be able to get off the field on third down? You did neither, and that's the result, 42-13. What does this mean for LSU? What does this mean for this program? And a lot of you are like me, and immediately after this game, it was complete and utter disappointment. Like, there is no excuse. This can never happen. I don't care who is on the team. You play for Louisiana State University. All right. You have all the resources to be great. We have a great coaching staff. We have a great fan base. We have all the ingredients to be a great program. And I'm not sitting here telling you LSU is a great program right now. But what I watched on Saturday night is inexcusable. There is no way in the world an LSU football team can go out there against a team like that in Alabama, who is probably the most gettable Alabama team you have faced since 2007, before Nick Saban's very first year, and you go out there and you get splattered. You got dominated physically, you got out coached. They did everything better. There was not a phase of the football game that you were better than them at. And that is the most disappointing part, because credit to Alabama, they did that. They prepared well. They executed their plan. They were the more physical football team. They dominated the football team, but that football team is not 42-13 better than you. There is no way you're ever going to convince me of that. These two teams were so evenly matched, I thought, right? And you go as an LSU fan and you take a look at what our lives looked like 3 weeks ago. It's halftime of the Texas A&M game. What does your life feel like? You're the number 8 team in the country. You're up 17-7 against Texas A&M if you have dominated the football game. And If I would have told you in this moment that in 3 weeks you were going to be questioning Brian Kelly and the direction of this football program, you would have told me I was crazy. But here we are. We sit after 6 quarters of the most disappointing, the most frustrating, and bad football that I've seen from LSU since Brian Kelly got here. That's including all the losses. I'm talking about these last 6 quarters. If you just take these last 6 quarters, you've been outscored 73-19 against teams in the top 15. All right. One was on the road and one was at home. But you know what stings even more is that you lost to a one-trick pony. And I'm trying not to make this sound disrespectful, right? Because Marcel Reed and Jalen Murray are tremendous football players, man. Like, they do things extremely well. And if you don't stop it, this is what happens. But we've seen teams go out there and consistently stop it and make them make plays through the air, which they struggle to do. All right? The most mind-boggling part is we sat here after the A&M game thinking, okay, they got 2 weeks. This defense has not been that bad this season. All right? They have looked bad at times, but they have also looked great at times. All right? They've been looking for more consistency. And you saw them stop a running quarterback against Arkansas. You've seen them stop a running quarterback against UCLA. They did a decent job in the second half against South Carolina. So you've seen this movie, right? You were hoping, and I was hoping, that Texas A&M was the anomaly, and I don't think it is. Because what Marcel Reed and Texas A&M did is they exposed your defense for what they are. And that is an undermanned unit that when you put somebody as athletic as Marcel Reed or Jalen Murray into the football game, they're going to give them problems because they have bad technique at times, all right? And they're not good enough athletes. They're not good enough athletes. You on the defensive line, you're not SEC talented. You have great defensive ends. The interior defensive line is average at best in the SEC. Right, you have strong athletic linebackers, all right, that lose gap contain sometimes, and then you have two safeties that can't make a tackle with the touchdown saving tackle on the line to save their lives. Sage Ryan and oh man, why am I forgetting? Jordan Gilbert are not good at tackling in open space, and a lot of those runs, when you need that touchdown saving tackle, is not there. That's why you see the big 75-yard touchdown runs, because the safeties are not there to make that play. And you're just not an SEC caliber defense yet. And I know what y'all are saying, man. I've heard it all the last couple of days. This is all I've heard is people saying, well, it's year 3. Why aren't we there? Well, you're right. Why aren't we there? But we can look back at the evidence to see why we're not there, right? Like, Brian Kelly, when he first got hired and hired Brian Polian as the recruiting coordinator and special teams coach, all right, he made a bunch of bad hires, all right? He brought in Matt House to run the defense. He got rid of Corey Raymond. He brought in guys to coach the defensive line. Every single year, they had a new defensive line coach. So you're behind the 8 ball right there. You're not recruiting at the level you should have been because of the coaching staff you hired. All right. You were letting kids that you desperately needed go other places. All right. And it is hurting you now more than it hurt you then. Because then in 2022, you saw, replace with the portal, like desperately need help now. And you saw the immediate results of that. And everybody was fine and happy. And then in 2023, you saw, okay, when they miss on portal guys, this coaching staff sucks. And credit to Brian Kelly, all right, because I'm going to give him shit. I got to give him praise because he hired terrible coaches and he immediately got rid of them. There was no, all right, we're going to work through this. It was like, no, like, this is LSU. The expectation is to be better than this. You're gone. And what did he do? He went out there and hired an elite coaching staff. And I know this shit is not what people want to hear, and it is not what the hell I want to be telling you. But realistically, you look at this LSU football program, they don't have the Jimmies and Joes that other elite SEC teams do. I'm not talking about the Arkansas. I'm not talking about the South Carolinas, the Floridas. Like, they have talent to beat those teams and maybe outcoach those teams, and they can man up. But when you go and play a Georgia, when you go and play a Texas, when you go and play Texas A&M even, when you go and play Alabama, like, those teams are stacked. Like, those teams have SEC caliber rosters that you can compete with anybody in the country just based off of your roster alone, and LSU is not there yet. And it goes on the offensive side of the ball as well, because you've seen it with Garrett Dellinger out, and you have the worst center in football right now, and PFF grades is literally the second worst center at his position. All right, you're seeing the ramifications from that. Like, you don't have that next man up on the offensive line, and it is showing. All right, you don't have that playmaking, get me a first down receiver. You have a bunch of really good receivers, all right, and you have a first year quarterback, all right, with no running game and just good receivers, not great receivers. I'm not sitting here trying to hate on the offense here, but there's a lot of blame going a lot of places right now, and the odds are just stacked against you, offensively and defensively right now. Like, you're ahead of the 8 ball offensively because you have guys like that on offense. And Garrett Nussmeier is going to get a ton of shit. He's going to get a ton of shit, and a lot of it is deserved, man. These last 6 quarters have been some of the worst quarterback play that I have seen in a while at LSU, and that is saying a lot, man. I watched TJ Finley and Max Johnson go out there a lot in 2020 and 2021, and at times Garrett Nussmeier looks worse than them, and they've found the book on him. They found the book on him. You get in these receivers' grills and don't play like a drop back zone, because I think people thought because LSU couldn't run the ball, like, hey, we're just going to drop back in coverage and they can't run the ball, so we're just going to play coverage. And it's like, no, you can't do that, because if you give this kid time, he can make all the throws. All right? But you've noticed Mike Elko cracked the code. You get pressure on him. All right, you send the house and you get physical with these receivers, all right, where they're not just running wide open in zones, and it becomes a problem, all right, because Garrett Nussmeier is a great player, and he thinks he's a great player, and he thinks he can make every single play, and sometimes he can't, and he's getting fooled. Like, he is getting schemed up. Like he is doing what he can with the options he has. Like, I try to tell people all the time, if you sit there and you're going to throw the ball 50 times a game, you're going to throw an interception. You're going to throw multiple interceptions. Like, it is just impossible. If you do something so many times, like, you are going to make a mistake one of those 50 times, and it's going to be a bad ball, and you're going to make a bad read, and it's going to get picked off. Like, that is just naturally the game LSU has been playing all season. And a lot of people shitting on Nussmeier are the same people that are saying, wow, Nussmeier's got to do it all, man. He's the only reason we've been winning is because our offense is so good, because he's been great. And so don't be that person who is like, all right, he was elite, 4 weeks ago, and now he's one of the worst quarterbacks ever, and we need to replace him. Like, that's stupid. That's asinine. Let's not do that. Let's think about what is transpired and what is going on with the LSU offense, because it's the offense as whole, it's just finally coming to rear its head that, hey, like, you can't run the ball at all, and we've kind of figured this guy out a little bit, so he's already playing behind, and it's the same thing I'm going to talk about with the defense. The defense is the same way. You just don't have the Jimmies and Joes yet. Give it time. This program is built on the foundation of recruiting. Every elite program has elite players. There is not an elite program out there that doesn't. All right, you go look at Oregon, you go look at Texas, you go look at Georgia, you go look at Alabama, you go look at Clemson, you go look at Florida or Miami right now. Like, they have elite players, not good players. They have elite players, and you have some elite players, but you don't have a lot of them. You go and look at the 4 and 5 stars on Alabama's roster, and go look at the 4 and 5 stars on LSU roster. It'll tell you everything you need to know. Everything you need to know. Alabama has 17 5-stars on their roster currently. LSU has 4. All right? And I'm not sitting here saying 5 stars make or break you or whatever you want to say. I'm just telling you they don't have the personnel to match up with a good team. Now that being said, I'm still not excusing what happened, because Brian Kelly, we posted something on Twitter today that was the most concerning thing. I just wanted to look it up, and I just felt like I had to share it, because you go and look at all 12 ranked matchups where LSU has played a ranked team. First off, they are 4-8 in those games. Inexcusable. That number should be closer to 500, all right, if you want to be consistent in this league as a top-tier program. All right? So you have 4 wins out of 12 in those games. And then you go and look at the games, and we talk about LSU's slow starts a lot and how they have to come back from behind and win games. And then I go and do a deep dive into it. You took the lead in those games. You were the first team to score a point in three of those games. And over 50% of them, you got down double digits before you even scored. That is not a way to win. That is not a recipe for success. And I know Brian Kelly knows that. Y'all know that. I'm just trying to figure out how the hell it keeps happening. Because we talk about it every year. We talk about it before every single big game. If LSU can just start fast. And what do? They go out there and they're lackadaisical, and they let the team get an edge on them. You go look at the Ole Miss game. Ole Miss was up 10-0 in that football game, and you had to battle back. Like, this is not a game you should be playing. And then the three games I talked about where you had the lead, all right, at one point, you lost 2 of those 3 games. You lost 2 of them, of the 3. The only game you won was the 2022 Alabama game. That was the only game you scored first and ended up winning the football game. And Brian Kelly always talks about, hey, we got to start fast. That's why we receive the ball, because we got to start fast. And it never works out that way. You always end up getting your ass kicked in the first quarter, second quarter, and then you start waking up a little bit and you battle back. But usually sometimes it's just too late. And that's probably the most frustrating part when I looked up those stats. But this program and Brian Kelly, I have complete faith in. They have a tremendous recruiting class coming in. And you are starting to see the benefits of the coaching staff that you hired. All right? I personally think they need to start coughing up some of that NIL money for transfers. I know you got to build through recruiting, man. But damn it, this fan base is so tired of being that 9-3 team and being on the cusp of being a good team. All right? And if it takes the NIL money going to transfers, and maybe you have to go out there and overspend for some guys, damn it, you need to do it, because it hurt you this year. All right? And it hurt you last year. So do what you have to do in recruiting. Go out there and get the portal guys you need. I don't care what it costs. Go out there and get the guys. You are a program that should be elite. Start acting like it. All right? That's all I got for you guys today, man. I thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, and we will be breaking things down, getting ready for Florida on Saturday.